Hello and welcome to the most self-indulgent YouTube video I can possibly make, probably. We're gonna be going through all of the art that I made in 2020, and I'm gonna be telling you what I think about it, I guess. I already recorded like half of this video, but then when I stopped recording my screen to go plug in my computer, I realized that I had not been recording audio the entire time. So I sort of had to start over. Okay, so let's get started. This was a part, and this and a couple of upcoming ones as well were a part of a thing I was doing on Tumblr where I made a bunch of color palettes, and then people could send me a request and a color palette, and then I, did that. And there's a bunch of like symbols and stuff on it. I quite like how this turned out, but it's kind of hard to post on social media anywhere because it's so pointy and nowhere likes that shape of image. This was my 2020 self-portrait. I've been doing annual ones for like 5 years now. I should actually get started on this year's one pretty soon, actually. But this is my favorite self-portrait I've done so far, and I still quite like it. This is another color palette thing, and this is my current D&D character. And just, to be a dick, I guess, my DM requested I draw my character, but then the color palette that he chose was like pretty much exactly the opposite colors of what my character's color scheme is. So I actually like to prove this point. I inverted the colors here, and like this is more accurate to what the character actually looks like. And this still annoys me to this day because like this is my favorite drawing I've ever done of this character, but the colors are all wrong, and I can't seem to replicate it. And obviously, I was a dumbass and didn't, like, save the sketch or the line art or anything, so. This was for a thing that was going around on Instagram, which was, like, called Toon Me, I think. And it was, like, the idea was that you draw half of your face in, like, a cartoony style, although, as you can tell, my style was not very cartoony. It was basically just, like, slightly stylized realism. But yeah, this was another color palette thing, and the prompt for this I'll have to read out to you. You know the feeling of staying up until 3 a.m. and realizing you have to be somewhere in like 4 or 5 hours, and yet here you are awake, doing whatever or nothing at all, and probably aren't going to go to sleep in a while because there's something lurking behind your bookshelf. That in 97, please. 97 was the number of the color palette. So yeah, that's what I did. This is basically like a view from my apartment from the spot where I always sit. Like, if you look closely, you can see that there are eyeballs and like the reflection in the mirror of like the bathroom door. The funny thing is, like, I am literally sitting in that exact spot right now. So that's also a little bit trippy, I guess. This is a character from a Critical Role one-shot. Can't even remember the character's name anymore, but this was Taliesin Jaffe's character, and they were, like, fucking awesome. And also, like, this art is my most liked Instagram post of all of last year, so I guess a lot of other people were very into this concept as well. It later was revealed that the scooter that was mentioned was like an electric scooter and not like a moped type scooter, but I debated which one I should draw for this, but then like the moped type scooter fit the page better, so I just drew that instead. This is just a screenshot of a YouTube video that I made because I don't have like a scan of this art or anything. And I'm not going to talk about this because it's all in the video, other than to say that I kind of feel like that video was a failure because I failed to prove my point because I wasn't using paper that was very good for watercolor, and I kind of failed with the shading on the watercolor one, so I was trying to prove a point that you should, if you don't have a lot of budget for art supplies, you should get watercolors rather than markers, because then you have more color variation, but I don't know, I feel like this is better than this is. I mean, I do like the colors better, and they were what I was going for, but I just feel like this is more even and, you know, less splotchy, because obviously the paper wasn't great and all of that. Hear me saying I'm not going to talk about this, and then I talk about it at great length. This is a part of a sort of project that I am thinking of doing at some point. I just mostly draw these characters for Inktober, and then I think I want to make a webcomic out of them eventually. But the idea is that there's this like startup, I guess like consulting company that's very obnoxious, but all the employees are cryptids. And yeah, this is one of the employees, I guess. I think this started out as me being like, what should I draw? And then my friend being like, draw a chimera. Is that how you say that? I guess. And I was like, is it the Full Metal Alchemist kind, or the mythological kind, or the real life kind? And they were like, yes. So I did this. It was like a human and a bear and a moose. This was just my friend saying something about a vampire MILF, and then I was like, I'm gonna draw the vampire MILF. I think this was in my sketchbook tour video as well. Then in April there was this challenge by Instagram user who I cannot right now remember who it was, but I'll put it on screen if I remember when I'm editing this. And it was basically like there was a list of prompts for the month of April, and I didn't do it religiously like I do Inktober, so I skipped a bunch of days if I didn't like immediately think of something from the prompt. But yeah, this day one was favorite color, and I've been a little bit indecisive about my favorite color of late, so I just kind of put in a couple of colors I like in there instead. There were a lot of like color scheme stuff, obviously, because the challenge was called April Colors, so this was a complementary color scheme. And I used only like 4 watercolor pans for this, 2 reds and 2 greens, so even though there are browns in here, they're just all mixed from red and green still. This was supposed to be a 20-minute study, but I cheated. I think it was closer to 40 minutes probably. I put in even the like shitty doodly ones from this challenge because I figured that if I was gonna put a part of my April Colors drawings, I should put all of them, but in general I didn't include any of my sketches from this past year. The prompt was pop of color, so I tried to go for like a pop art style. I don't know if that really translates. This hybrid animal was, I think, a turtle, a raccoon, and a palace cat, which are some of my favorite animals. This one, the prompt, which I don't know how to pronounce. I did 7 years of French, but I'm terrified of French, so I'm not gonna try to say that. Basically what that word means is like a sort of grayscale, light and dark type thing. So I did a pencil sketch in the same style that I used to draw a lot when I was like 15 and 16, and so then I drew Legolas because that's like a lot of what I drew. And this was like actually a redraw. I put it in here so you could see of this thing that I drew in 2011 when I was 15. So you can see the contrast. But at least I don't draw on grid paper anymore. This was an analogous color scheme. By the way, all of these like color scheme ones I just looked for, I think it was mostly on Instagram or maybe also on Pinterest. I just looked for like a picture of a person that looked cool, and then I just like drew that person. These were supposed to be freckles and not like a skin condition, but because it's red, I don't know if that really translates. I don't know what I was thinking of here, but I think it's kind of funny. Okay, so then in the middle of April Colors, I decided to also start doing the 6 fan arts thing that was also going around on Instagram. So this is the Ruby of the Sea from Critical Role. This, I think, is my favorite of the ones that I did for this 6 fan arts thing. I quite liked the concept because the aposematism, which was the prompt, like, I googled that word, and it means something like, you know, how poisonous animals have like a bright colors to sort of as a warning of them being poisonous. So my idea was that there's this red house, which is like a sort of one of those nature's warning colors, and it looks like innocent, but then there's something sinister about it. So there's this bloody handprint on the window, and then like this smoke is coming out of the chimney in the shape of a skull. And like I originally tried to get like these two windows to look like eyeballs, but I don't think that really comes across. But maybe I could revisit that because I thought the concept was cool. This one and this one I did at my parents' house, so I didn't really put a lot of time or effort into them, and I also didn't scan them. They're just like I took pictures of them with my phone, so that's why they look so crappy, I guess. Yeah, I was in my brother's room when I was drawing this, and then I was like, "Do you like it?" And he was like, "No, I hate it. That's terrible. Don't make me look at that." So I guess I achieved what I was going for with this, which was slightly unsettling. This was just a study I did of a picture I took in Ireland in 2016 when I was there with my mom. And this was a good prompt for me because I'm usually way too lazy to do backgrounds or landscapes or anything, so it's good to have to practice that a little bit. These are more characters for that cryptid thing that I mentioned. This was a drawing from 2019's Inktober that I just colored in for this. And I actually really like how this came out. This is probably like if I ever did actually do the webcomic, this would be the style that I'm going for. So I would like ink it traditionally and then scan it and then color it in digitally like this was done. Okay, so nothing to say about that. That's just a little doodle. This is another of my cryptids. This one is named it's spelled like with 2 lowercase m's. It's just another doodle. I think this is my favorite of the color palette ones. This is split complementary, and I drew this while we were playing D&D. This is Carl from Hank Green's An Absolutely Remarkable Thing and A Beautifully Foolish Endeavor. This was the last one of the April colors, I think. The Triadic palette. This one also came out pretty cute. More 6 fan arts. This was Hal from Howl's Moving Castle, and I tried to do a sort of like a mix between the book version and the movie version. And this is Luke Skywalker, and I do not like how his face turned out. There's something about it that's not quite right, and I can't put my finger on it, but it's just like, it looks weird. I don't know. It makes me uncomfortable to look at it. I don't like it. This was Little Mew. Not sure if that's how you're supposed to say it in English, but that's how I'm saying it because, Finnish/Swedish, I guess. Lilla Mew. This was very hard for me to try to translate into anything that resembles my style without completely losing the character. That's Chandler, and I also don't like how he looks. He's also not quite right, and I don't like how washed out the skin tone is. This is Clank from Ratchet and Clank, and I just fully gave up on trying to make it look like my style and just copied what he looks like in the games because I didn't even know where to start with that one. Then there's a bunch of Magnus Archive stuff incoming, and this is not going to be a spoiler-free explanation, so just be wary of that. So, this is my version of John the Archivist, and I know the fanon, if you will, is that he is brown, but that's not the mental image that I had in my head when I was listening, and I just, with these, was trying to replicate what was in my brain when I was listening to the show more than anything, and I feel like that's okay, because it's not like he's canonically a non-white character. What does that mug say? I can't remember. Oh, I guess it says you don't have to be evil to work here, but it sure helps, or something like that. But yeah, this is series 1, and then series 2 or 3, and series 4. I like how these came out. I think these are good. This one's a little bit anime for some reason. Maybe it's the glasses. But yeah, I think it looks like what he looks like in my head. And then I did the same thing with Martin, except these are in a different order. So it's series 1, series 2, and 3, and then series 4. And he's got a Charlie is so cool, quality t-shirt. I think I did a really good job with both of these in capturing what the character looks like in my head, which is sometimes quite hard for me, so I was very pleased with those. And also my friends who also like the Magnus Archives thought that they looked like they're supposed to look like, so that was nice feedback to get. Then these, and then the next ones. These are my symbols of the entities in the Magnus Archives. In order, they're like lonely, the spiral, flesh, end, stranger, eye, web, vast, buried, hunt, slaughter, desolation, corruption, and dark. And so I did these because my friend was like, I want to do a dice bag with these, like, symbols on it. And, like, have y'all seen any good versions of these symbols that would work for that? And I'm like, I haven't seen any, but I can just make them for you. So then I just made them for him. And then it briefly crossed my mind that could it be possible that he would make this dice bag for me because I am the resident dice goblin of the friend group, but then I was like, nah, there's no way he would ever put that much time and effort into something that was for me. And then lo and behold, my birthday rolls around and he's like, well, this is probably not very surprising, but here's your new dice bag. And I was like, are you kidding me? I'm so surprised. I never thought that you would, I don't know, spend this much time on something that was for me. So yeah, that was one of my favorite gifts that I've ever gotten, and also sorely needed because, as I said, I'm a dice goblin and I have a lot of dice and I had nowhere to put them. So yeah, that is something I cherish. And I like that it was a collaborative project in that I drew these symbols for him. I think my favorite one is Lonely because, like, I didn't even think about that one. It kind of just, like, came out of me unexpectedly, which I guess makes sense because if I would be any of the avatars, I would be an avatar of the Lonely. I also like the eye and the spiral, and then buried as well. This is John and Martin, and this is just a little doodle, but I liked it a lot, so I put it in here anyway. And then, I started doing this thing, basically ever since my first 100 followers on Tumblr. Every time I hit, like, a new even 100, I'll do some kind of art giveaway so people can send me art requests. And this time I wanted to practice drawing two characters interacting, which is something I'm not very good at. So I asked people to send me like two characters and then what their relationship is. And then I would draw that. And then my friend was like, can you draw two huge anthropomorphic tuna mayo onigiri, like eating me and my friend? And I was like, I guess I can draw that. So that's me and that's my friend. And then I finished drawing this and I was like, do you realize that you have just made me draw Vor? Like, this is Vor. Like, I hope you're happy. But actually, there's something kind of delightful about this drawing. I don't know. This is for those same requests, and this is supposed to be Luke and Han, but I don't know if that really... Yeah, I'm not a huge fan of this one. This, on the other hand, I really love, and this is Fool and Fitz from Robin Hobb's Farseer trilogy, and I'm so happy that my friend requested them for this, because I really wanted an excuse to color in this old sketch I had of these characters. And I tried a new coloring technique for this that I quite liked, where I took a couple of stock photos, just from like a royalty-free stock photo website, and then like ones that were really colorful, and layered those on top of my flat color layer with like different layer modes. And then I just like merged all of that down to the flat color layer, and then color picked from there when I was like doing the shading, so it gives this like a really iridescent look, especially on Fool, because he's so pale here. Yeah, I really like how this came out, and I have used that coloring technique a couple of times since, and I think it's a cool way to add a little bit of interest and variety to your colors. This I hate. This is Zuko and Sokka from Avatar: The Last Airbender, and this is just something that I really struggle with, where like if you're making something that's photorealistic look more stylized and more cartoony, then that's sort of like simplifying and taking things away. But if you're like starting from a more cartoony art style and trying to go more realistic with it, then you sort of like have to add stuff that's not already there and sort of like invent stuff to put in. And I'm just like not very good at that, and I always struggle with that. And with this, I tried to sort of like retain the expressiveness of the like cartoony art style, but then try to make the proportions more realistic and more like my style. And it did not work out for me at all, and it's just, especially Sokka's face here, it's just, I don't like it. It's not great. But this was a request for someone else, and I was like, this is not a passion project of mine. I'm not gonna spend like any more time trying to figure this out, because like this is the best I can do with this, and I would have to start over if I tried to, fix it. So I just was like, fine, it's good enough, but I just really don't like how it turned out. So this is Kvothe and Denna from the Kingkiller Chronicle. I also don't like how this turned out. I was trying something with his hair, and it didn't work out. It's too curly, it's not right. Also, the proportions or like the scale is somehow off, like they don't look like they're in the same place even though they're touching, and it's just generally not great. I do like the shading on her dress though, that's nice. And I like the swoop of her hair. That was a sort of like unusual thing for me to do, and I like how that turned out. This I love. On the other hand, this is Helen and Michael from the Magnus Archives. If you know the Magnus Archives, you know that this was a great excuse for me to go absolutely bonkers with the like colors and patterns. And also, I love that there was finally a time for me to do a drawing where not being able to draw hands very well was a feature and not a bug. And yeah, I think I did Helen's face while I was in a Zoom meeting for work. Yeah, this is great. I like this. I had a lot of fun with this. This was as was this actually, but this was another of those requests, and I can't even remember what the names of these characters are anymore. These were from a video game that I had never previously heard of. Usually in the past I've never taken requests from like fandoms that I'm not in, like if I don't know the source material, I wouldn't take the request. This time around, I did take some requests that I don't know the source material. If the source material was something that already exists visually, like if it's just a book, then I won't do that, because obviously I don't know what the character's supposed to look like if I haven't read the book. But like, because this was a video game, I could still like Google what they look like and do my best with that. I'm a little bummed out about this one, because, like, obviously I didn't put a lot of effort into it, but also then the person who requested it never, like, liked or reblogged the post on Tumblr, so I feel like that's a little bit of a social media faux pas, that if you ask someone to make an art for you, then you are obligated to like and share it, depending on the medium, but, like, on Tumblr you need to, like, at least reblog it. If somebody draws something for you for free, then the least you can do is share it. This was a logo for a secret society. Yep, that's all I'm gonna say about that. The prompt for this one was that my cat looking for me in the woods because it's time to go to bed, and I'm hiding from the cat because, there were some instances in the summer when we were at the summer house, and my mom had this thing that she thought that the cat should be brought inside for the night always, so then I had to like walk around the like yard calling for him, trying to get him to come inside. He always did come inside, and we did always get him in for the night, but yeah, that was that. And this came out surprisingly cute, I think, although I'm not sure that the perspective really translates. This was an oil painting I did. I have two slightly different pictures of it because taking pictures of an oil painting is always a little bit challenging. But this is Elias and Martin from the Magnus Archives. And basically, I had a prompt for this that was like really bonkers. It was like, I don't know Zelda at all, so this is going to be a difficult explanation, but there's this one Zelda game where there's this character, and then there's like a gif of him like with a really long tongue, like sticking out his tongue next to Link, who looks very uncomfortable or something. If I can find the gif, I can put it here. But yeah, basically my friend gave me that gif and was like, this is what the relationship is, and then the characters are Elias and Martin, and that was all I was given. And I for all of this artwork in this like request series, I was like rolling dice to see what media I would use for each of them, and this one I rolled oil painting, and I was like, I am not going to do a stupid fucking weird meme as an oil painting because it's going to take me months to do it. So I'm going to like try to interpret this in an artistic sort of way. And so this is what I came up with. I think it's pretty cool. I still haven't actually varnished this because last I checked it was like 2 months after I finished it, but it was still kind of damp. Okay, then we get into Inktober. Probably not gonna stop to talk about all of these, especially with the ones that I don't have really an opinion about, but this is a joke about Crit Role Campaign 1. This is a sort of self-portrait, but me as like a wisp. Also Crit Role Campaign 1, that's Grog. I think this one came out pretty okay considering I'm not very good at drawing like muscles and stuff. Not a huge fan of the face, but this one's just a generic landscape. This was not Inktober, but the prompt for this was 2 of my favorite characters from Discworld, who have never met but would be mortal enemies, and I had a very hard time coming up with 2 characters that I would like who have never met and would be mortal enemies, and this was the best I could come up with, so that's Gasboat, is that how you say it? But the talking dog, and then this is you, Granny Weatherwax's cat. And considering I'm not great at drawing animals, I think I did an okay job with this. That's Vax, from Crit Role Campaign 1. The joke was that it's rollerblades, but then he's also the rogue, so he has actual blades, and yeah, yes, his booty shorts say Glorious Goods on the back. If you get that joke, then I hope you think it's funny. I quite enjoyed making this. This is my absolute favorite Inktober drawing from the past year, and I think maybe my favorite drawing of the whole year. This was basically like an anatomical chart of like a dissected rat, which is like, plague year, because it was the year of the rat, but it also was a plague year, and then I sort of like labeled all the internal organs as like bad stuff in the year, and I probably should like clean this up so that I could make this into a print or something. I have a brand new color printer, so if I got some like photo paper or something, I could technically like sell my own prints. Up until now, I've just had stuff on Redbubble, but let's be honest, nobody ever buys anything from there, so I don't really have an audience, so I don't know who my customers would be if I did more of an art business. This is Percy and Vex, and yeah, in sort of like formal wear. I like this. You can see from this scan how like wrinkly the paper gets, because I never do my Inktober stuff on paper that's actually equipped to handle wet media, but yeah, I think this is pretty cool, and I did like, these are sort of suns on the coat for, the Sun Tree and Palor and all that. This is another of my cryptids. This is Linda. She's a tooth fairy. This I really like. I just like the vibe of it. My idea was just that there was this guy whose job is to dig graves, and then there's this ghost dog in the cemetery who he plays with sometimes. I swear if you look closely enough, the prompt Hope is in there. These were Magnus Archive stuff. I was looking at reference in this sort of like, I don't know what they're called, like in Finnish it's called like kasvio. It's like a little book with like pictures of different plants, and then like they're labeled like what plant it is. So I tried to do that of the like different types of quote unquote flowers in that like mortal garden that was in one of the episodes in series 5. I like the concept, but I'm not a great fan of my execution, because I just like this was a little bit more ambitious than I had time or energy for during Inktober. Another one of my cryptids at the office. This one doesn't have a name yet. This is Anakin, who doesn't like sand. And then this was a little doodle of my friend's new D&D character for like a different thing that he's doing with some other people that's not like our friend group, but he came up with this new character and I was like, I'll draw them for you. So I did this. This is Vex, and it's like from waist up it's fine, from waist down it's terrible and I hate it, but I was also like trying to figure out sort of outfit that I like because I am planning a Vex cosplay for whenever cons are back. And my friend is gonna do Percy, so. This one was a really quick one that I did like on my parents' couch because I was at my parents' house with two of my friends. My parents were away, we were just there because they have more space than I do. And this was also scanned with my parents' scanner, which does weird stuff with black. This is Bo and Bo's little brother, and she's teaching him to use bottle rockets. The anatomy is slightly questionable, but I think this is cute. This is Yasha. This one's pretty cool. I don't think I made her look buff enough, though, but it's hard because the buffest part is the shoulders, but that's, like, obscured by the wings, so. This is a character that pops up every now and again in my Inktober drawings when I can't think of anything else. He's just like a generic Fae character. I quite like this drawing. And then I did a couple of different versions of this. So this was the original, which is just a scan of what I a scan of what I drew. And then I threw some chromatic aberration on it in Fire Alpaca, which is also pretty cool. And then I was given the idea of making this into a GIF, so let's see if this works. Yeah, so basically it does that. So yeah, that's cool and kind of trippy, I guess. This was a watercolor painting of one of the wedding photos of my friend's wedding. That I made for her and her husband as a gift. Their wedding was already in 2019, but it took her a while for her to get the wedding photos and then choose one that she wanted me to paint. And then it took an even longer while for me to actually paint it, especially because of COVID and everything. I wasn't going to see her anytime in the near future. So I was struggling to like finish this basically. Just a generic underwater thing. I was going for like a thing where there's a sort of like a post-humanity vibe. This is another one of my cryptids, and I really don't like how this one came out. This, on the other hand, is also one of my favorites from this past year's Inktober's. This was inspired by that one Magnus Archives episode, but basically the idea is that, well, you can see the little fingers in the meat grinder and the stubby arm, yeah. I just really like how her, like the shape of her body looks. I'm not usually great at drawing like characters who aren't skinny. I just don't have a lot of practice, and I like how the shapes of this are. And this was a project where I basically printed out and tore up some of my Inktober drawings from that, like the past couple of days, or like just Inktober that this past year up to that day, and I just, used those torn up pieces to like glue them back and then like put a little bit of line art over it. And this is actually a technique that I've been a little bit obsessed with since then. This was inspired by my symbol for the buried in the Magnus Archives that you saw earlier. I'm not sure if I like this or not. This is a self-portrait of me as a small kid and holding my teddy bear that I still have, who is named Kamu, which translates to buddy. And so the prompt was buddy, so then I had this idea of like me holding my bear and then this sort of like spiritual imagined bear sort of like looking after me. I don't know, I thought it was cute. Yeah, this one's okay, I guess. I liked where I was going with this, but I kind of like fucked up the background, I think. The prompt was music, so my idea was that I was doing these lines and shapes in the background, like in tune, like in time to music that I was listening to it, but it didn't really turn out. This is a picture of my friend floating over the ocean on our way to Finland to steal my other friend's bones. This is sort of inspired by my D&D character, but not necessarily my D&D character, and I just wanted to do this really obnoxious outfit. And I've been seeing these robes on TikTok that have like the fur trim and the really big sleeves, and I low-key really want one of those. This might be my favorite. Well, this is probably tied with the rat with my favorite of the Inktober drawings. This is a little like grill kiosk in Otaniemi. All of my cryptids are there, and then also my friend who actually lives there. I put him in the picture as well to sort of represent a civilian who just happened to walk into this scene with all my cryptids. And then this I drew while we were finishing Last of Us 2 with my brother, and that's supposed to be Abby, because like the prompt was crawl, and the Last of Us 2 had a crawl mechanic that Last of Us 1 didn't have, so that's what gave me that idea. So yeah, this is another thing I did with that technique of tearing up paper and then gluing it, and I think it's really cool. This is Jamon Saord from Critical Role Campaign 1, and then Lord Vetinari, who are best friends / mortal enemies in this scenario. I had such a fun time making these newspapers. Let's zoom in, I drew this right after Biden won the election, so the main headline is belligerent pumpkin subdued. And yeah, I put all kind of like jokes and Easter eggs into this newspaper. Yeah, and I quite like how this came out. I think both of the characters look like what I imagined them to look like. And I've really, you can see, the wallpaper in the background and also the floor texture, and I think the chair textures as well, I've taken to using these, royalty-free stock photo websites for when I need, because I'm trying to do more backgrounds, but I'm also very lazy with them, so I'll just, find a pattern that I like for my drawing, and then just, use different layer modes to throw them on to, add interest to the background without having to actually, draw in a detailed background. And, maybe that's a little bit cheaty in a sense, but also, who cares? I'm not doing this professionally or anything. Okay, we're almost there. This is Bill Potts and the 12th Doctor that someone requested. I don't know that I captured their likenesses very well, but this was another one of those things where, I'm not super inspired by it, and somebody else requested it, and I'm just gonna, finish it. And then this is the last thing that I drew in 2020, which is Essek from Critical Role, and this was basically an imaginary scenario that me and my friend came up with of, if the Tomb Takers had taken Essek hostage, if Essek had been a part of that group of, dynasty explorers that they killed. And I ended up writing a whole fanfic about it as well, but I'm just, very proud of this drawing, even though it's very self-indulgent and, a little bit, I don't know, kinky. But, I'm just really proud of it because I didn't have, a single anatomy reference for this. I had, 3 separate ones that I had to combine, and this was, an anatomically very difficult pose to pull off. And so, I'm just, really proud of how well it came out. And yeah, that was a great art note to end the year on, I guess. But yeah, now we have gotten through all 90 of the drawings that I did, or arts, paintings, what have you, that I did in 2020 that I collected into this folder for this video. And I bet this is going to be 45 minutes long even if I edit it, so I'm just going to stop talking right now and thank you for watching and wish you a happy, or at least less crappy, new year. Thanks for watching. Bye!